Enter the Deadzone 2 Infestation, Part 1 by Jack Fike and Rob Harper. Vast areas of space are claimed by human corporations. They are not seen as the benign overlords they portray themselves to be in every system and by every race. For some, they are tyrants and dictators. Whether it is insurrection, greed, or alien invasion, there are often times when corporations want all the news from a system to simply stop while they resolve the issue. So when things get seriously out of hand, like when marauding pirate fleets seize a colony, when rebels throw off corporate shackles, or when a plague incursion breaks out, they order containment protocol and send in their enforcers to deal with it. This is also known as a dead zone. Sergeant Abigail Cook stood at the opening of the descending dropship. The wind whipped what hair he had left as he looked down at the ever-approaching landscape. There was nothing planet-side that threatened their descent, which was a nice change. He looked back to his squad. Most sat strapped into their jump seats. Some looked a little green. Green. Yep, that's what they were. Sarge just shook his head and looked back down towards the drop area. His second-in-command, Lucinda Bain, stepped up beside him. She was the only other Pathfinder in his unit that had been with him more than a few months. Even she held on as tight as she could as she got closer to the opening.
Sarge, we're 10 miles out. Time to strap in.
He knew when he needed to strap in. He wasn't senile yet. He was leading this pack of new Enforcer Pathfinder recruits on a milk run. These men and women had been picked as the best of the best for the academy, but to him they were just a bunch of brooders, no experience. He was on a babysitting mission. He guessed that was his future now. Too old to do real work. He just looked at Bain, and she slinked back to her seat and strapped in.
Prepare for landing!
In his day, they'd be up and ready to burst out of the ship on touchdown. Hell, most Pathfinder units were still like that. He'd once seen a unit of bikers jump their monos at the back of their ship while they were still 10 feet up. But this was a glorified training mission. Everything by the book. He shut the exit ramp and headed to his assigned seat. Just as he reluctantly was about to sit down, the comms blared.
Christ! Sarge, you better get up here!
Sarge tapped his comms as his ship lurched up.
What the hell's happening up there?
Deadzone.
Sarge moved forward to the cockpit. The ship swayed and buckled, but he never lost his footing, much to the amazement of the rest of his team. He opened the door to the sound of klaxons.
Deadzone alert, Sarge! This planet is gone. What do we do?
Sarge just stared at the pilot. Another young cherry.
We're enforcers. Dead zones don't apply to us. Secondly, we're pathfinders. This is what we do. We land and we complete our mission, and you come back and get us. Do I make myself clear?
Yes, sir.
Sarge winced at being called sir. He turned and headed back to his men.
Okay, everybody up and ready. We're going to learn what it means to combat drop.
The team stared at him, but did as they were ordered. They lurched about the cabin as they grabbed weapons and equipment. Sarge looked the 5 Pathfinders over as they lined up near the exit. He hadn't bothered to learn their names. Other than his sniper Bane, there was Skull and Stripe, both named after their oh-so-original chestplate art. Past them stood their second female member, he called Squid because of her dreads. She was young enough to be his granddaughter. Hell, he'd left enough heartbroken girls out in the universe, maybe she was his granddaughter. Lastly, there was Face, a pretty boy. Sarge hated pretty boys.
Okay, maggots, listen up. This went from a simple scout and clear mission to something else. Containment protocol has been initiated. We don't know what we'll find down there, but if this has been made a dead zone, we can expect it to be nasty.
Sarge, you think it's a plague?
Don't be an idiot. They were all wiped out on Nexus Side. Bali Zor, or Rebs.
They don't drop a dead zone for Rebs.
Brace for landing.
Sarge hit the ramp button and leveled his tag rifle. The others behind him did the same. They'd practiced this 1,000 times. They'd do okay, Sarge thought. Too bad he didn't believe it. As the ramp extended out the back of the dropship, Sarge caught his first glance of their target. It was a research lab run by one or another corp. He didn't care which one. It didn't matter. Their job was to infiltrate the lab and assess why the place had gone offline. From the outside at this distance, all seemed normal, except the lack of activity. Even the most secure labs had techs outside catching fresh air and smoking a vape. No sec teams either. He expected some port marine to greet him as they landed to try and bitch at him about jurisdiction. He'd been hoping for that. He needed a laugh. Now with the dead zone, things had taken a serious turn.
Okay, people, prepare for touchdown. Eyes peeled.
There, movement, 3 o'clock.
I got it.
She stared down her HoloLens. The image inside amplified 1,000 times. A dog running away from the facility. No, not just a dog.
Hellhound! Jesus Christ plague!
Bane leveled her gun and slowly squeezed the trigger, but before she could fire, Sarge grabbed the barrel. She looked up shocked.
Settle down. Don't waste your ammo. It's only a dog.
But Plague!
We knew there was a chance. We prepared for this. Execute plan side.
The others loaded armor piercers into rifles as Vane and Sarge scanned for more plague. Vane wasn't happy she didn't get her first plague kill, but she knew she'd get another chance most likely. The dropship hovered a few feet above the hard-packed ground, and the squad jumped out, nerves tense.
Melendez, right. Schaefer, left.
Skull and Stripe followed their orders. Sarge forgot their names again as soon as Vane said them.
Squid with Skull. Bane with Stripe. Face, stick with me. Your job is to protect the bombs.
The remaining members did as they were told. Neither particularly liked their nicknames, but since Sarge had given them, both felt a sense of pride. All members knew how lucky they were to be here with Sarge. Sarge had fought the plague. Sarge would see them through. Each group headed to a different entrance marked on their maps. Inside the first floor was a grid, so each team would make their way to the main rotunda for a rendezvous. Nothing complicated. The first floor would be easy. It would only get harder from there.
Face, ready for breach.
Affirmative.
On my mark, go!
Face flung open the partially broken door and Sarge moved in, crouched in a combat stance. Once inside, they could see the place was abandoned, or at least looked that way. Papers drifted in the breeze they let in, and signs of small arms fire rattled the walls and ceilings. Ahead of them was a small reception area that opened up to a huge main rotunda of the facility, the public face of the place. The real facility was underground.
Clear.
Sarge didn't like how fast Face had cleared the area. Either he was sloppy, or Sarge was slowing down. He didn't like either answer.
Clear. Move forward.
Sarge could hear off in the distance his other team members. At least his hearing was still sharp. The place had been a scene of a fight, that was for sure. Blood splatters meant lots of people hit, if it was people attacking. Or had the infection come from within? He'd read reports of that too. The most disturbing thing was the lack of bodies. He'd heard the plague ate their dead, but never really believed it. But now?
Sarge, I got a bad feeling about this.
Stow it. We do the mission and get out. That's what Pathfinders do.
Yeah, Sarge, I guess you're right. That dog we saw was probably just scrounging for food.
Little did they know they were being watched from the darkness. Hiraku didn't like listening to the doctor. The doctor had bossed Hiraku around in his past life too. Back when Hiraku was just a human. Now Hiraku was plague. A big plague too. He had been in charge of analyzing the artifact they had found. It had chosen him first. Stage 1 was what the others would call him, but he preferred the slang name of Plague Lord. But here he was, listening to the doctor. But the artifact told him he must. No plague denies the artifact's word. The doctor commanded, and Hiraku did as he was told. For now.
Hiraku, go see what all that noise is about. I must not be interrupted.
Yes, Doctor.
Hiraku started towards the stairwell to go up to the main floor of the facility. They had heard the telltale sound of a dropship, and he knew what he would find above. Enforcers. They had come to kill Hiraku and his offspring. He would not allow that. Hiraku motioned for a couple of what were known as Stage 2s to follow him. They were little more than beasts, but Hiraku liked their company. They obeyed him, unlike the doctor.
Come, brothers, let us hunt.
Hiraku took the steps 2 at a time. Even then, he wasn't moving fast, just deliberately. The Stage 2s behind him leapt and chattered. They were excited to hunt. So was Hiraku. He hadn't hunted since they had finished off the last of the corporation's security team. Even then, it wasn't much of a hunt. Enforcers, they would be a good hunt.
Quiet now. They are more dangerous than the other humans. These enforcers can hurt us. Caution, my brothers.
As the group of plague reached the sub-basement, a couple of plague hounds trotted up to the group. Hiraku patted their heads and told them to follow. They too did as they were told. The dogs in the Stage 2 started to whine and get agitated. Hiraku too could smell the humans above. It would not be long now before they hunted. The doctor would continue to stop the others unabated. The enforcers would die.
Calm now. Silence.
Hiraku motioned for the dogs in the Stage 2s to spread out and stay hidden as they made it to the main floor. The stairway they had used was a service one, and therefore away from the main reception areas. When Hiraku was just a lab assistant to the doctor, even he hadn't been down these stairs. He could smell a few enforcers nearby. The dogs could no longer resist and charged. Hiraku motioned for them to stay, but their bloodlust was up. The Stage 2 started to go too, but Hiraku grabbed each of them.
No, stay.
Contact!
Shit, dogs! Sarge, we have dogs!
These enforcers were not like the others Hiraku had seen.
Before, some enforcers had come to inspect the security of the lab, and they had been covered from head to toe in armor. Hiraku had expected to see the same here, but instead these ones were lightly armored. The female would have been attractive to Hiraku if he hadn't transcended such thoughts. He smiled at the thought of hunting these two. Then they started firing. They may have looked weak, but their weapons spoke differently.
Take that, you ugly mutt!
Good shot, Squid. One down, one to go.
Don't call me that!
Hiraku saw both blade hounds go down under these enforcer rifles. He could no longer hold the stage 2's back. One rushed directly at the firing humans, while the other circled around.
Sarge, more incoming! Oh god, they're the big ones!
The enforcers concentrated fire on the stage 2 they could see. Hiraku winced as it went down. He started to step forward when the second stage 2 jumped at the male enforcer from the shadows. With one swipe, its massive claws came through the man's face. He died instantly. The female turned.
Melendez, no!
Hiraku smiled again as the stage 2 advanced on the female. He too started to step forward to share the kill when more gunfire blasted the last of his group from behind. The rest of the enforcers ran up to cover their teammate, and Hiraku stepped back in the shadows undetected.
Holy hell! Melendez!
Squid, report.
The pretty female called Squid stood in a daze. Hiraku had seen that look many times just before he finished off a human. Shock, he would guess. A weak species he was glad to have escaped.
Squid, I said report.
Sorry, it was 2 hellhounds and 2 stage 2s. The one you fragged we never saw. It...
Understood. Bane is Skull?
Another more stern female looked up from where she was examining Hiraku's fallen enemy. She just shook her head. 4 left, Hiraku thought. Could he take them?
Stripe and Face, set up a perimeter. There might be more. Bane, click Skull's tag and mark him for pickup.
Hiraku slipped back further into the shadows and back to the stairwell. The others would be easy, but the one they called Sarge looked different. He would not be an easy hunt. Hiraku looked forward to the day he would get his chance to test himself against that one. For now, he would go back to the doctor to report and get more brothers. Hiraku moved back down to the doctor to tell him what happened. The doctor would not be pleased.
What happened? I heard firing.
5 enforcers, but not regular ones. Less armor. They killed Oris and Walters. Also, Inky and Little. There are 4 now.
4 of us for one of them? That is unacceptable.
Before Hiraku could defend himself, the doctor waved him away.
Lightly armored enforcers? The fools sent pathfinders. They must not know what is going on here. Go, get more of our brothers and sisters. We must not let them interfere. Those fools will ruin everything.
The others are below, watching the door.
Hurry then and get some. But leave Richards and Dawkins to watch the door. Tell them to report if anything moves.
Hiraku just grunted and plodded away. The doctor shook his head. Why was he burdened with such incompetence? Only the artifact knows. He went back to working on security locks through the vault. Nothing must stop him from completing his work. The doctor was lost in thought, and didn't realize how much time had passed until he heard a noise and looked up. His first thought was that inept Hiraku had returned after taking his sweet time, but the rifle pointed at his face, point-blank range, immediately told him otherwise.
Hold it right there, Gene Joke. One move and I'll happily end you.
No, the doctor thought. He was so close. Not now. He sensed Hiraku nearing. The dolt was seconds too late. He caught sight of Hiraku sticking to the shadows, a ways down the hall. He had seen what was happening. The doctor motioned the big stage 1 back. No use getting them all killed. And the doctor thought, maybe these pitiful humans might still be of use. The doctor saw one of the stage 2s with Hiraku start forward. Damn it, they would be the end of him, he thought.
Attack now!
Deep down, Hiraku wanted to attack. He could win. The doctor would be killed, of course. But that troubled Hiraku not at all. Then he felt the pang from the artifact. It spoke to him, and he must listen.
No, he told us to wait. For now.
To be continued.
Hey, Jack.
Hey, Rob.
Have you heard of Deadzone, the podcast before?
Yes, I have. And where would you find that?
That would be at deadzonegame.podbean.com.
Deadzone, the podcast. Come to deadzonegame.podbean.com to check us out. News, reviews, a lot of talking. Come check out the Deadzone.